listening to CLNS Media, powered by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/roll. Use our promo code CLNS50 for 50% off your first deposit.
Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Before we start things, if you wouldn't mind, go rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes. Helps the show out, helps us keep growing. So again, please do that. Rate, review, and subscribe. We especially appreciate those 5-star reviews. And I do read through all of the reviews, so if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask, that's a great way to go about it. Topic for today is Anthony Davis. Surprise, surprise. All kinds of things to talk about in the world of Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans and what's happening with the whole trade negotiation situation. We know that Davis still wants out of New Orleans, so we've got a ton to break down, including some reasons why the Lakers may be able to get Davis for less than what they offered back at the trade deadline. I'm going to be digging into that in just a moment. But first, quick shout out to our sponsor, betonline.ag, your home for online gambling. All you have to do is go to clnsmedia.com/LeBron. That's how they know that you came from us. Again, that's clnsmedia.com/LeBron. And then punch in the promo code CLNS50. You'll get 50% bonus on your first deposit. So make sure you guys go check that out. All right, let's dive into the Anthony Davis news and everything else that's going on. So we'll play a little armchair GM here. All right, so the Lakers are going to want to try to trade for Anthony Davis this summer. We know they're one of the teams that's going to be interested in him. But the situation has changed quite a bit from the trade deadline. And so let's break down how that's changed. First of all, there's a new person in charge. You've got David Griffin in charge with the New Orleans Pelicans. Ultimately, owner Gail Benson will have final say on whether or not they pull the trigger on Anthony Davis. We know the Lakers are probably not the ideal spot for the Pelicans to trade him to from their perspective. They don't want to give Davis what he wants. They don't want to give the Lakers the satisfaction of getting Anthony Davis when they feel like the Lakers were in some way connected to Davis's trade demand last trade deadline back in February, because they felt like what was happening was Davis was requesting the trade then in order to keep the Boston Celtics out of the mix. And if you remember back then, it's a little bit complicated and everything, but if you remember back then, there's something called the Rose Rule, where it allows teams to pay more for their rookies who are becoming free agents. It's allowing them to give the truly exceptional ones more money. And Kyrie Irving was one such player, and Anthony Davis was one such player. But one of the rules is that you are only allowed to have one on your team that you traded for. Okay, so if you trade for that player, you can only have one of them. Well, if you have Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving at the same time, that would violate the rule. Once the Celtics supposedly signed Kyrie Irving to a new contract, then they wouldn't have to worry about that anymore, and they can go ahead and trade for Davis. So the Celtics couldn't trade for Davis at the trade deadline, and the thought was the Lakers, by getting in an offer in the present, before the Celtics could even get in on the bidding, would be able to potentially get a deal done and knock the Celtics out, not even give them a chance to take a swing at Anthony Davis. So the Celtics, meanwhile, told the Pelicans, wait until the summer. Wait until we can get in on it. Surely our offer will be better than the one the Lakers can give you. The Lakers, meanwhile, wanting to make sure that Davis didn't become a target for the Boston Celtics, offered up everything. I call this the kitchen sink offer. They offered up, according to rumors anyway, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, Ivica Zubac. Still RIP Ivica Zubac. Still can't believe he was a Clipper. Ugh. 2 first-round picks, plus absorbing the bad contract of Solomon Hill. So all of those things for Anthony Davis. I can't believe it. I can't believe the Pelicans did not take that offer. That is an incredible offer. Look, pundits around the league will tell you, no, that offer's not enough. Anthony Davis is better than that, blah, 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 blah. Come on. That's undervaluing the Lakers' assets big time. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, those are serious pieces, serious players. And the Pelicans said no. They turned their nose up, said we're not taking that deal, possibly out of spite, but because they wanted to wait until the summer to see what was here. Okay, fine. That's their option. Summer's here. Now guess what? Things have changed a ton, and it may not be a good thing for the Pelicans. So the Pelicans do land Zion Williamson in the draft, and that's important. Okay, they're going to have the number 1 overall pick. They're going to use it on Zion Williamson. It's a no-brainer. Okay. That makes it a little bit easier for them to move Davis because now they have a star that they can build around. They've got somebody that will put butts in seats, which is not an easy thing to do in New Orleans. Tiny market, their attendance is not great. So having Zion already in place means they don't have to worry about finding another star in the Anthony Davis trade. So they can sort of expand what they're looking at a little bit more. All right. So now Davis, it's summertime. Davis still wants out. He still wants out of New Orleans. Doesn't matter that they have Zion. His preference would still be to go to the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Knicks. Well, the Lakers, to me anyway, have the strongest offer out of that bunch. But do they need to go back to the kitchen sink offer? I don't think so. I don't think they do. And look, they can't lowball the Pelicans here. That's for sure. Because if they do, the Pelicans may turn to an offer like the Knicks, which I think will be a lesser offer, and maybe take that out of spite. But looking at what the Lakers can offer and why things have changed is important. Okay, so back then, back at the trade deadline, the threat of the Celtics was out there. Now, maybe not so much. Now it looks like Kyrie Irving might be leaving the Boston Celtics. In fact, it's seeming more and more like a certainty every single day. The Brooklyn Nets just pulled off a big trade with the Atlanta Hawks to free up another max cap spot. So Kyrie Irving has been rumored to go to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, that's a negative for the Lakers because they probably would have pursued Kyrie in free agency. But now he's rumored to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and that means he would be leaving the Boston Celtics. So if the Celtics go and they give up most of their assets, we're talking like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and certain picks and things like that, in order to get Anthony Davis, you're bringing Davis into what? There's nothing left. Into a wasteland. Into a Boston team that's just given up, that just lost Kyrie to free agency and gave up all their young assets. Why would Davis stay? He's going to be a free agent in 2020. Okay, and this is why the Pelicans have to trade him. They have to trade him by the trade deadline in February. Otherwise, he's leaving New Orleans. He's going to leave in 2020 and they'll get nothing for him. So they have to move him. The Celtics now can't offer quite as much because if they do, what do they have to convince Anthony Davis to stay? Look at what the Oklahoma City Thunder did. Hey, look at what they did with Paul George. They decided to take the risk. Paul George didn't want to come to OKC. They took the gamble, got him anyway, gave up assets in order to get him, and then said, look, you're going to play next to Russell Westbrook. See how you like it. Turns out he liked it a lot, decided to stay. Okay, if you go to the Celtics and you bring Anthony Davis there, and there's no Kyrie to play that Russell Westbrook role, there's no other star there to say, hey, we're going to build something long-term, Davis really doesn't have any incentive to stay with Boston, which therefore doesn't give the Celtics any incentive to pay a bunch in all their future assets to go bring in Davis, knowing that they'll only have him for a year. So if the threat of the Celtics isn't out there anymore, that's some leverage for the Lakers. They don't have to pay quite as much because, well, that's a big offer off the table. Plus, we just talked about the Brooklyn Nets. Because they made this trade, they've traded 2 future first-round picks in exchange for Taurean Prince, and they cleared the contract of Allen Crabbe. So they did all this to clear salary. Now the Nets don't have those picks to deal. So if they don't have those draft picks, maybe their offer for Davis isn't nearly as compelling. So they're probably out of the running now too. So you've got the Boston Celtics, whose offer doesn't look anywhere near as good as people thought it was going to be. I mean, look, the Sacramento Kings pick that everyone thought was going to be incredible is 14. That's what the Celtics get in this draft, is the 14th pick, and still get a good player there, but it's nowhere near as valuable as people thought. The Memphis pick that they have moving forward, that's a good asset, but who knows what's going to happen in Memphis. They could shock some people, and it may not even end up being that good of a pick either. So the Boston Celtics assets don't look nearly as good as they used to, especially with Jason Tatum struggling so much last season. So Boston's offer isn't as good. The Nets offer isn't going to be nearly as good. The Knicks offer can only really beat the Lakers with the number 3 pick versus the number 4, which that's significant in this draft. You're talking about the difference between, say, RJ Barrett, which will almost certainly be the 3rd pick, and a Jarrett Culver, Darius Garland, or a player like that. Well, there's a difference there. There's no question. So the Knicks have an advantage there. But across the board, what's their next best asset? Kevin Knox? Dennis Smith Jr.? Probably Mitchell Robinson, who they drafted in the 2nd round. Those are the types of assets the Knicks have. I don't think that's on par with Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, pieces like that. Okay, plus the Lakers have the 4 pick. Plus they can throw in future picks. That's important. The Clippers, they've got some pieces they can move, probably have to structure something around Danilo Gallinari unless they come up with some way to move him elsewhere. But bottom line, I don't think it measures up. So the Lakers now have a pretty strong offer, and you know that Boston's offer, assuming Kyrie doesn't stay, isn't going to be very good. So what would the Lakers offer look like then? Knowing that they probably don't need to part with the entire kitchen sink. And look, the Pelicans are going to ask for it. They're going to ask for everything, right? But the Lakers need to take advantage of the situation, but toe the line very carefully. Again, don't make an enemy out of the Pelicans. That's how things turn south at the trade deadline. So what does it look like? Well, first of all, the Lakers have the 4 pick, right? Back at the trade deadline, it looked like the Lakers would, if they gave up their pick this year in the Anthony Davis deal, if they did that, that pick was probably going to be best case for the Pelicans, maybe 15, 16, something like that. Most people assumed that if Anthony Davis came to the Lakers, joined up with LeBron James, they would make a playoff push. So if you were the Pelicans and you're looking at, okay, what is the value of this asset? You'd have to figure it's probably not a lottery pick. Well, it turns out it was a lottery pick. The Lakers even jumped up and they got the 4 pick. So if you're looking at that package the Lakers put together, instead of say a 15th or 16th pick this year, it's now a 4 pick. So because it's a 4 pick now, the 4th overall pick, you can extract or take out some of your other assets. And here's what I would recommend. If I was the Lakers, the goal should be to remove one of Brandon Ingram or Lonzo Ball. I'd get rid of one of those guys, and there's ways you can do that. Okay, before I dive into that though, quick note. The Lakers can approach this in 2 ways. Okay, an Anthony Davis trade. They can either approach it as a team below the cap or above the cap. And that's significant. Okay, if they are approaching it as a team that is below the cap, that means they're going to be using their cap space that they set aside for this summer, $30+ million that they're going to use to go chase max free agents. They're going to use some of that to eat Anthony Davis's salary. Okay, Anthony Davis is going to make about $27 million next year. So if they work a trade for him, they could trade anything. They could trade a top 55 protected 2nd round pick, which is the weakest asset you could possibly trade, and just absorb Davis into cap space. Obviously, the Pelicans aren't going to do that. I'm just saying within the constraints of the CBA, that could work. Okay, so you don't even have to worry about salary matching if they're treating themselves as a below the cap team. So we're talking about Kyle Kuzma, the 4 pick, and Lonzo Ball. Okay, you're talking about roughly $10 million, almost $11 million in salary going out for Davis, who's $27 million. So you're eating that remaining $16-ish million, plus you're sending out the 4 pick. Okay, could do that. Definitely could, but here's the problem. If you do that, then you're subtracting that, say, $16 million or whatever it winds up being from your available cap space. So now you can't go chase a max free agent. So then what's your team look like next year? Well, you don't have whoever you would have drafted at 4. You don't have, say, Lonzo Ball in this scenario. You don't have Kyle Kuzma. You've lost all those pieces. Okay. You also can't chase like a Kemba Walker, Kevin Durant, any of those players, any of the top players, Klay Thompson, any of them, Jimmy Butler. Okay, you can't chase any of those guys. So you'd have to find some bargains with the remaining whatever you have left, about 16-ish million or so with that hypothetical example. Okay, not a great scenario. You're talking about a team built around Anthony Davis and LeBron. In that scenario, you'd hang on to Brandon Ingram, but then you've got to go try to build a hodgepodge team and put it together with the remaining 16-ish million that you have left. Okay, then you'd have a room exception or something to use once you spend that. And that's about it. Not easy to build a championship team around that, even though LeBron and Anthony Davis is a great start. The more enticing way is to go above the cap. And by that, here's how they would do it. So what you would have to do is come to an agreement with the Pelicans before the draft. Draft is coming up June 20th. So before the draft, you come to an agreement with the Pelicans. Okay, and you say, look, we're going to make this trade, right? The Pelicans then tell you who to pick it for. Let's say they like Darius Garland. Okay, I do. I think he's going to be good. So let's say they like Darius Garland. You go and you pick Darius Garland. Okay, and you say the trade is going to be, let's go with one of the examples I put down here. Let's say the trade is the 4, which we're going to call Darius Garland, Lonzo, Mo Wagner, Kyle Kuzma, Isaac Bonga. So the Lakers are then able to hang on to Brandon Ingram and not part with him, and they also hang on to Josh Hart in that scenario. Okay, workable trade. Here's how it would work. The Lakers would then go into free agency. They would have this agreement with the Pelicans. They would not submit it to the league. It would not be officially done because you need Darius Garland's salary in it in order to match. Okay? Because what the Lakers would then do is they would go out. Free agency begins June 30th. They would go out and they would spend their cap space in free agency. They would spend the entire 32-ish million that they have to spend. Maybe they go get a Kawhi Leonard. Maybe they don't. Maybe they wind up with Nikola Vucevic and like a Tobias Harris or something like that. Okay? Whatever they spend it on. Okay, they spend all their cap space. They've built their team up a little bit. They can actually probably sell team players a little bit better too. If they say, hey, look, we have this deal in place for Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, why don't you come join up? I think that makes them a much more enticing sell in free agency as well. So that's an added benefit here. But they sign Darius Garland. Let's say they sign him right away. July 1st, they sign Darius Garland. You then wait 30 days. He has to be under contract for 30 days before you can trade him and have his salary count towards the salary cap. That's going to be about $7 million, that number 4 pick. That's about what he's going to make. So now you wait the 30 days, and now you've got Darius Garland's salary that you can throw in with Lonzo, Mo, Kuzma, and Bonga. You add in that $7 million, and next thing you know, the Lakers are sending out enough salary, just barely enough, to match or at least get to within that 125% plus $100,000 range of Anthony Davis's contract. Okay, that's how you can structure it. And then next thing you know, you keep Brandon Ingram. You've got Jimmy Butler or whoever in free agency. Let's say it's Jimmy Butler. Okay, and then you trade Darius Garland. You trade Lonzo Ball, Mo Wagner, Kyle Kuzma, and Isaac Bonga for Anthony Davis. And then you're building your team around Butler, Davis, LeBron, Ingram, and then Josh Hart and whatever else you can bring in. Okay, that would be a pretty solid start to a Lakers team, right? Now, the Pelicans, of course, are going to ask for more. They'll ask for the kitchen sink. They'll ask for all kinds of other pieces. What does it look like around Ingram instead of Lonzo? So with Lonzo staying with the Lakers, it's about the same deal, but Hart would have to be in it as well because Ingram actually makes a little bit less than Lonzo. Okay, so because Ingram makes a little bit less, if you are putting him in the package, you're actually going to have to add one more piece in order to get closer to matching those salaries. So Hart would have to be thrown in as well, just in order to make the math work. So that's at least how I've worked things out here. Key point here, the Pelicans, as far as do they prefer Zoe, do they prefer Hart? And Lonzo Ball has another year of team control, so that may be a factor for them. Brandon Ingram, I think, may have the higher ceiling. Maybe they consider that. That's kind of an eye of the beholder type thing. Another option they could go with would be if the Pelicans really want the best of the best, and maybe this is what it takes to get it done, you do the 4 pick, let's call it Darius Garland, same scenario where the Lakers are picking somebody for the Pelicans, signing that player, and then they trade them 30 days later as part of this package. It would be the 4 pick, Lonzo and Ingram. Those 3 pieces could get it done, and if you're the Pelicans, maybe that's preferable than absorbing guys like Bonga and Hart and Kuzma and Mo Wagner and all those other pieces, because that's a lot of players just to take onto your team. Okay, it's a lot of roster spots that you're filling right there. So for Lonzo and Ingram, that could get it done in terms of just the cap space. Is that enough value? Well, I don't know. And then if you're the Lakers, you're getting to keep Kyle Kuzma, you're getting to keep Josh Hart, so you can add those guys as foundation pieces in addition to, say, your Jimmy Butler, your LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Okay, again, that's why I think going above the cap is probably the way to go if you're going to trade assets anyway, because it gives the Lakers the opportunity to go out and shop in free agency. Now, why would you do the below the cap version? Well, you would do it if you're sure you know that you're not going to get a max level free agent. You're not going to get that guy that you want, and this is a way just to get the deal done. Okay, you just want to get it done and you want it to be over with and finished, and you don't have to worry about the Pelicans going back on their word in 30 days or anything else happening. Maybe you just go and do it, and you just pull the trigger, and then you build your team from there. Maybe you can try to hang on to some more assets because the Pelicans aren't helping you out in any way. You don't have to worry about matching salaries. It makes it a lot cleaner in that regard. But again, there are workable deals here where the Lakers wind up keeping one of their prime assets and still get Anthony Davis. Now, again, will the Pelicans do this? I don't know. That's the question mark here. That's the big question. Why would the Pelicans trade with the Lakers, especially knowing what was offered back at the trade deadline? Will it look bad for them if they don't get this giant haul of players and picks and all these sorts of things? Yeah, but again, the number 4 pick, that helps to ease some of that pain a little bit, because remember, you're jumping up from what the Pelicans thought and what everyone thought was going to be a maybe 15th or 16th pick at best at the trade deadline, and that's jumped up to the 4th pick, which should allow the Lakers to pull some players back from the bargaining table. Plus, when you throw in the Celtics situation and the Nets situation, that gives the Lakers a little bit of leverage. Now, and this is key, I think if the Pelicans are determined to not send Anthony Davis to the Lakers, which in conference, right? If the Knicks offer and the Lakers offer is similar, if the Pelicans see those two things as equal in value, he's going to the Knicks. Be sure of that. They will trade him out of conference and they will give him to another team that is not the Lakers if they don't feel like the Lakers offer is clearly the best. That's clear as day. That's what's going to happen here. So because of that, if you're the Lakers, you have to be really careful, because the worst thing for you is not no deal here. The worst thing is a bad deal. Okay, a bad deal that sees you sacrifice your entire future. Let's say the Pelicans say to the Lakers, we want Lonzo, we want Ingram, we want Kuzma, we want Hart, we want everything you've got. We want your 4 pick. We want a couple of future firsts on top of that. We want second rounders. We want you to absorb a bad contract. All of that in order to get Anthony Davis. There has to be a point where you walk away if you're the Lakers. Even if you know you're not getting anyone in free agency, because there's going to be other opportunities. You've got young assets. You've got cap space. You've got LeBron James. Yes, there's pressure on the Lakers to build a winning team around LeBron James right now, but step back and remember, this was not plan A. Okay, trading players, trading young assets, and I'm sure I'm ringing true here to a lot of Lakers fans that I've seen complaining, saying we want to see the young kids develop. This was not the plan. Okay, trading these guys to get Anthony Davis right now as your savior to come in and fix things with LeBron, that was not their plan. The plan was to head into this summer's free agency and be a powerhouse in free agency, because guess what? In free agency, you don't have to give up any assets. All you're giving up is cap space if you sign a player. The plan was, hey, we get somebody. Ideally, they wanted to get Paul George and LeBron last summer, which is why they got rid of Luol Deng when they stretched his salary, okay, and they made the moves that they made. So that was the ideal situation. Paul George winds up staying in OKC. They pick up LeBron, then sign 1-year contracts so they can go out free agency again this year. Then Anthony Davis suddenly hits the trade market, and next thing you know, the Lakers are in the mix here. Now, it doesn't sound like they're the front runner for any free agents, but I think you can make a real argument that keeping Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma and all of your assets, whoever you get at number 4, Darius Garland, my guy, okay, maybe you like Jarrett Culver, maybe you like Cam Reddish, maybe you like DeAndre Hunter, whoever they pick at 4, keeping all those guys, bringing in a Jimmy Butler, if you can get word that Jimmy Butler will come, and building your team around LeBron, Butler, and then all of those young kids. Because these young guys are going to get better, right? And that may be better. That may be a better scenario than getting rid of everything, all your young kids, plus future picks in order to bring in AD right now and then try to build a team around him and LeBron. I think the Lakers have to be very careful with that. They have to understand where the line is. And if the Pelicans cross that line, I think the Lakers have to be very willing to walk away, knowing that the fallback options aren't that great. Okay, again, you've got the Knicks offer, you've got maybe a Clippers offer, and what else? I mean, look, the Denver Nuggets could get involved. A few other teams can make it interesting. Teams will want Anthony Davis, but I don't think anybody can come all that close to what the Lakers are offering, especially if we're operating under the assumption that the Boston Celtics won't give up all of their top assets because they no longer have that star already in place to convince Anthony Davis to stick around. Make sense? Hopefully that explanation wasn't too long or too convoluted or anything like that. It's a complicated situation going on, everybody. There's a ton of different factors, tons of different things at play, and things are changing almost daily. I mean, look, nobody saw that Brooklyn Nets Atlanta Hawks trade coming. That changed the dynamic a little bit. I'm sure we're going to see more things happen between now and the NBA draft, but I think it's fairly likely that we see Anthony Davis moved by draft time, and we're hearing more and more that a trade with the Lakers is possible, is something that the Pelicans will really consider. And I don't want to say the Lakers are in the driver's seat or anything like that, but they are going to be a real option. To me, I think it's going to be a 2-team race between the Knicks and the Lakers. Maybe a third team's able to get in there. But again, like I said, if you're the Lakers, you got to be very, very careful and very willing to walk away from this whole thing if it's going to cost you too much and cause you to give up your entire future to land Anthony Davis. Yes, he's a great player, but if you do that, what are you left with? LeBron and AD, is that enough? I don't know if you can make that argument. I think it's got to be a deal that works with the Lakers and will allow them to then build a team out. And that's where I'm giving these examples of going above the cap so you can bring in another star and still bring in Anthony Davis and potentially keep one of your young cornerstones. All right, guys, that's it. Let me know. What do you guys think? What should be the trade offer for Anthony Davis? What should be the Lakers' limit in order to land AD. Go ahead and respond in the comments and let me know what you think. Make sure you keep it tuned right here to the Lakers Nation YouTube channel and follow us on social media at Lakers Nation on Facebook and Twitter, and at Lakers Nation Official on Instagram. My name's Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. And make sure you head over to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers, where we have more on the Anthony Davis story and everything else going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Till next time, see ya.